Is a teen curfew with a multiple hour or multiple day notice period something you'd be open to?
I have worked incredibly hard to drive violence down in this city, because it doesn't just affect us when it happens in a spectacle like that. The shooting that happened last night that nobody covered, but I'm aware of it, and there's a family that's hurting still. It's why I'm driven towards solutions. My top priority is to keep the people of this city safe. And you saw, we made adjustments right away. The next day, there were thousands of people who were out as we lit up Michigan Avenue, the Lights Festival. Not a single incident. You know, unless you've lived through the pain and the trauma of shootings and homicides, perhaps you don't fully understand the mechanism in which we are attempting to lift up. What we can't do is give people a pacifier and make them believe that they are being made whole. I need everyone in this city to make sure that we know what is happening with our young people. That is not the assignment of one person. That's the assignment of all of us. And we can't just simply bow out because we're afraid to do the heavy lifting and the heavy work. The fact of the matter is we have guns that are being funneled into our city from states that voted from this extreme right-wing agenda. 20,000 guns, over 20,000 guns we've eliminated off the streets of Chicago. The fact that young people and bad actors have access to guns, illegal weapons, that is a problem, a severe problem. And it only gets highlighted when something like this happens. And I'm saying that this is my fight every single day, because the people who are dying, they look like my children. The people who are victims look like the communities that raised me. And so no, I don't have a high tolerance, you all, for a tepid approach towards how we drive violence down in the city of Chicago. We have more work to do, but it's going to take all of us.
Boy. So we got to talk about this very entertaining press conference featuring woke Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who is going to get pressed over and over and over again by reporters on the clear corruption that is happening within the city. Specifically, when you talk about this budget proposal from woke Mayor Brandon Johnson and the teachers union. They're both in bed with each other, right? I mean, Brandon Johnson basically works for the teachers union, and he's going to get confronted about the violent teenagers who are wreaking havoc in Chicago. Okay, we talked about the mass shooting that took place at the Christmas tree lighting ceremony. Okay, and tourists were freaked out, right? You can't even come to Chicago as a tourist, right? And to enjoy whatever Chicago has to offer without worrying about violent teenagers getting in shootouts, right? And that's what happened. And of course, he's being pressed on this stuff. And let's just say he was not happy, okay, about being pressed on the core issues facing Chicago. So we're going to start off with the woke mayor being confronted about the lies that the teacher union is currently putting out there about the budget proposal from woke mayor Brandon Johnson, who literally is trying to tax businesses out of the city, right? With his so-called head tax, right? To tax the rich, to tax the billionaires, right? Yeah, this plan is so unpopular that the teachers union, again, they're running ads lying about the plan, okay, and just lying in general about what is going on with the budget proposal. And the reporters confronted Brandon Johnson about his mob of, radical teachers putting out these false advertisements. Take a look.
Deadline coming very quickly to hash out Chicago's budget and the big shortfall. Now more than half of city council members are pretty much laying the pressure thick on to finalize a deal.
Yeah, they have about 4 weeks before they have to meet that budget deadline to pass a budget. And the alders just sent an alternative budget proposal to the mayor's office. CBS News Chicago's Lauren Victory is at City Hall to break down this alternative budget. And Lauren, it tosses out some of Brandon Johnson's key ideas to generate revenue. One real controversial one in particular.
Sure does, and it's all laid out in this 13-page letter that was delivered to the mayor's office yesterday. 26 out of 50 alders signed it. They say the multiple budget hearings that occurred over the last month or so were not enough to answer their questions or address many of their concerns. It was last month that Chicago's Finance Committee rejected Mayor Brandon Johnson's $16.6 billion budget. His version did not increase property taxes, but it did raise rates for things like cloud computing and software licenses and boat docking docking in Chicago harbors. By far, the biggest talker and sticking point of the mayor's proposal revolves around businesses. A so-called head tax would charge large companies a monthly fee per employee to fund youth violence prevention programs. That was a no-go back in November, and it's a no-go in the alternative proposal several alders are presenting this week. They also say a $10 million hemp tax needs to be removed because it's irrelevant now that the federal government banned many hemp products. This plan from the alders calls for youth guidance funding to be restored, and like the mayor, they also don't want any property tax increase or a grocery tax. Elected officials who signed off on this letter are urging the mayor to also consider that we need to pay down city debts. They are using the word negotiable when in this letter to describe their ideas. We've reached out to the mayor to see what his office thinks about all this, and we'll let you know as soon as we get a response. I'm Laura Victor reporting live outside City Hall, CBS News Chicago.
And of course, Lauren, would also be a question of would he veto this alternative budget proposal too? So a lot to talk about. Thank you.
So as you know, you have allies that are also advocating for this budget, putting out ads, social media posts. The CTU put out a social media post yesterday, tracks with previous press releases they've put out. It says, it describes your plan, and then it says the billionaire back plan would, among other things, raise your property taxes, cuts $166 million from firefighters, and doesn't want to pay victim of wrong or pay out the lawsuits to people who've been hurt by like wrongful lawsuits from CPD. As you know, there is not a plan that's been put out that would raise property taxes. And while there are aldermen who don't want to borrow for those operating costs, as far as I'm aware, no one has said they don't want to make those payments at all. Do you think the CTU is, as you said about the others, being misleading and lying about what's on the table?
Well, there are alders that have floated the idea of raising property taxes. They have. You know, they're not coming out saying it out loud because for whatever reason, they don't have the fortitude or the gall to actually state their position out loud. We're going to release $500 million into our public schools. That's what the CTU is fighting for. And you know why they're fighting for that? Is because that's what I've been fighting for my entire professional career. No, that's not misleading. What these corporations are doing is an absolute failure. It's a lie. And so, no, I think what they're doing is advocating for working people, and they should continue to do that.
Have any aldermen called on you to cut $166 million from firefighters or not pay victims of wrongful convictions?
They don't want to support this budget that does that. They have made it very clear, and I'll pass this to our budget director.
What I will say is that they haven't come up with an alternative to pay it. In the absence of an actual solution, they're asking for it to be cut out of the budget.
Their ads don't say that they oppose your budget, and they haven't come up with, they directly say.
Start over, Justin. Who's they?
These ads put out by the CTU.
Okay.
Says directly that they want to cut
them right now.
100, because you're kind of ignoring that what they're saying is not true. It's misleading. It's not accurate.
It sounds like you've already drawn your conclusion, Justin. All right, let's move along. Thank you.
So I'm going to let you try to answer the question that Justin asked again. You know, you began this news conference talking about these groups are misleading, confusing Chicago, trying to lie and trick people. Mm-hmm. The CTU ad uses the word billionaire. It is a fact that some of these companies that will be paying this head tax are not billionaire owners. And it is a fact that the aldermen have not come up with a proposal for a property tax hike. So again, how can you call those ads misleading but not the CTU ad misleading?
Well, first of all, the alders have not come up with any proposal. We've just heard speculation. And so what you're simply going off of is speculation. We have not received...
That's what CTU was going off of, is speculation.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that, okay? When you have multiple reporters calling out BS from the Chicago's Teachers Union, who basically tried to say that the alders, who Woke Mayor Brandon Johnson is currently fighting against when it comes to the budget, right? You have some alders who actually want to cut spending, right? They don't want to tax all the revenue out of the city, which is something that Woke Mayor Brandon Johnson wants to do. He wanted to raise property taxes, but he's basically claiming that the aldermen, they want to raise property taxes, even though there's no proposal from them to actually raise property taxes. But that is what the Chicago's Teachers Union alleging, right? While at the same time claiming that they want to do a bunch of stuff and supporting Brandon Johnson wanting to tax businesses out of the city, right? And these reporters are essentially calling him out on the fact that, hey, you know, your allies, your comrades, these ads are very misleading, right? They're telling flat out lies about the current situation because, again, taxing these corporations, right, these head tax is basically a tax on employment, right, is probably not popular, right? It's not something that is easy to defend or to justify, okay? And the residents of Chicago have already kind of found out that the cost of taxed rich actually falls on the middle class and the poor, particularly property owners, because property taxes have increased in Chicago due to the fact that the rich of these businesses that Brandon Johnson wants to tax so much, they've left the city, right? They've started to leave the city, which means less revenue for the city, and they're going to have to raise revenue in another way, which means that property taxes are going to have to go up, okay? And they did that through basically increasing the valuations on some of these properties without actually really raising the tax rate. They just increased the valuations of these properties, and that was their roundabout way of increasing property taxes, and the Chicago residents felt that, right? They felt that. And this guy is trying to double and triple down on, hey, let's tax the rich, but actually he's going to end up taxing the middle class. And that's just kind of how this works, okay? And I want to react to another reporter here, probably the most based reporter in the room, William J. Kelly, right? Our boy, okay? He is going to confront woke mayor Brandon Johnson about crime and this budget crisis as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Business leaders have reached out to me. They say that they don't trust you, they don't trust your budget, they don't obviously trust the head tax. They point to the fact that you don't own and operate a business, you don't know what it's like to actually employ anyone. That your policies, in fact, this absolutely insane policy of trying to limit the number of people attending a Kris Kringle market, a Christmas market, that is directly across the street from City Hall.
Your question is like bad coleslaw. Like you're just, this is like raisins and coleslaw and a bunch of stuff.
Is that your budget? Is that your financial analysis? Is that your financial analysis?
Ask the specific question.
Yeah, the question is simply this. Business leaders who actually know something about a budget, who actually know something about
still not a question.
Owning and operating a business.
I'm having a tough time trusting and believing you. You don't talk to that many people. There's just no way.
People reach out to me all the time. They're outraged.
You don't talk to that many people. There's just no way. You talk to black, brown people, and business leaders, and you can't come up with a simple question.
All day, every day. At William J. Kelly. Check it out.
Come up with
Be
a
my
simple
guest.
question.
ReporterWilliamJKelly.com. Take a look. Take a look for yourself.
Well, at 2.7 million people population in the city of Chicago, if you talk to hundreds of thousands of them, you are talking to what, 20, 30, 40% of the city population?
On a regular
I bet
basis?
any news organization in here would dream of having that kind of interaction with the population.
Yeah, your ratings are so substantial. Oh my gosh, I'm surprised you're here with just that limited equipment.
Right.
Because there's actually limited equipment that you are operating with right now. Let me just get to your question.
Well, I mean, let's be honest, though. Let's be honest. For what he does, right, in his brand, he doesn't need fancy equipment. He just needs a phone. That's all he needs to embarrass Walkman Brandon Johnson, which, by the way, amazing screenshot, right? I love when I accidentally get great screenshots when I pause the video, right? Because this is definitely going in the thumbnail. See, here's the thing. I don't use AI for my thumbnails, right? A lot of people use AI and stuff. I don't like doing that, right? I feel like that's dishonest, okay? I like to use actual screenshots, okay? I think that this screenshot is a great representation of how this press conference went down, okay? But anyways, woke mayor Brandon Johnson here is clearly upset with Mr. Kelly for adding context around this question.
I think I know what you're asking.
My question is, whether or not, and by the way, the people who interact with me agree with me. They don't agree with you. Take a look at the comments.
We got it.
But the fact of the matter is simply this, that the fact that you think that a Christmas market across the street from City Hall is more a threat to public safety than violent black teenagers running down State Street shooting people at a Christmas tree lighting shows your priorities. What do you say to those people, citizens, black, brown, business leaders? What do you say to those people?
Got it.
Yeah. that if they get a phone call from you or they get an interaction with you, they should avoid you. I'm not going to entertain, because the whole premise of everything that you bring up is not only disgusting and racist.
Really?
It does no fact to it.
So the attack on Bethany McGee, you think she deserved that? Is that what you're saying?
I hire 36,000 people work for the city of Chicago right now. So I do know what it's like to run a major operation. I have the biggest corporation.
Yeah, and how's that going? Right? How's that going? Your bond rating has dropped. It's going to drop again soon, okay, under your leadership. You're bankrupting the city, right? I would not have used that as a flex, right? Again, it's especially considering how the city is currently facing a budget crisis, okay? $1 billion hole, and this guy is trying to flex as if he's running the city so efficiently, right? He's so great at running the city. He's like, no, bro, you're terrible, absolutely terrible.
Right now in the city of Chicago right now.
And that's the problem.
So thank you very much. And I'm going to close with this. There is not a person in this city who spends more time working to ensure that we're protecting working people. There's not a person that spends more time thinking about it. In fact, our budget reflects that. My values reflect that. You would do yourself good service by actually showing up in this room with some level of integrity as well as some honesty. You don't operate in any of that.
I'm only asking questions that people are asking me to ask you.
We got it. Thank you.
Okay, let me take us home if I can.
Well, first of all, WGN, you all have work to do, right? Because, in terms of ratings, clearly this individual says that he speaks to more people than WGN News and every other news outlet combined.
WGN reported that Bethany McGee engaged in an argument before she was attacked.
Go ahead,
that is false. That is false. That is a lie. Bethany McGee did not cause that attack. She did not cause that attack.
Not familiar with what you're talking about.
Well,
and yes,
take a look at the
we have good
screenshot.
ratings, especially the Sunday Night News does really well. All right, so off topic.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Every single time I cover these stories about how Democrats govern these liberal cities, I always ask myself, how in the world does allegedly half the country want to go back to that, right? I just don't understand. I just don't get it. I don't understand how you see somebody like a Brandon Johnson, okay, a Mayor Wu, a Karen Bass, like all of these woke lunatics running these. How do you see people like that and you see the results? You say, yeah, these are the type of people that should be running the country. I don't get it. I don't understand. I really don't. It blows my mind, right? But, hey, I feel like these stories are important to continue to highlight the failures of Democrat governance, because people have to be reminded that this is what you get when you vote for Democrats. Chicago is a disaster. You can't even go downtown to a Christmas tree ceremony without worrying about getting shot up by violent teenagers. And if you question it, then the mayor is going to call you racist, right? If you ask questions about it. If you say, hey, what are you doing about this? Right? Do you even think this is a problem? You're racist, okay? You can't ask about the budget. Why is Chicago in so much debt? Why is it that their bond rating keeps getting downgraded without him gaslighting you, right? Lying to your face. And this is what you have to deal with when you are being governed by Democrats and progressives. And at some point, maybe the voters are going to learn that this stuff never works. It never works. But it's really unfortunate that they got to live through it. They got to experience it before they realize that, hey, maybe Democrat governance is the problem. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.